How's it going, everyone? Austin Honecker here. I just wanted to come on here for a while and give them a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Rampage from 2 nights ago, which was October 21st, 2022. I gotta say, it was awesome from start to finish. For the matches, match 1, it was The Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, versus the Varsity Athletes, which are Tony Nese and Josh Woods, in a titles versus trademark match. That was a great match, but the ending to it, The Acclaimed went over and retained the AEW Tag Team titles, cause Max Caster pinned Tony Nese with the mic drop. Now, before the match, as Mark Sterling and the Varsity Athletes, which are Tony Nese and Josh Woods, were already out in the ring, Billy Gunn and The Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, came out, and Max Caster done a rap on Mark Sterling and the Varsity Athletes, and Anthony Bowens said his signature line, "Jacksonville, The Acclaimed have arrived," and everything, and then Anthony Bowens was getting ready to do another signature gesture of "Scissor me daddy ass," but Mark Sterling got on the microphone and talked about how The Acclaimed could not do the scissor me gesture because he has the rights to scissor me. And then Mark Sterling was getting ready to do the scissor me gesture with the Varsity Athletes, which are Tony Nese and Josh Woods, but The Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, attacked the Varsity Athletes, which are Tony Nese and Josh Woods, and beat the shit out of them before the match started and everything. Chuck's cool. And after the match, as Billy Gunn and The Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, were celebrating The Acclaimed's victory, Mark Sterling got on the microphone and cut a promo talking about how The Acclaimed may have won their match, but he still has the rights to the scissor me gesture and everything. And then Billy Gunn came out and grabbed Mark Sterling and threw him back in the ring, threw him into the ring, and then The Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, beat the shit out of Mark Sterling and had him on the ground and stomped on his nutsack, and then Billy Gunn and Max Caster held Mark Sterling down, and Anthony Bowens done a diving leg drop on Mark Sterling's gonads, and then Billy Gunn ripped up the trademark paper of Scissor Me in two, and then Billy Gunn and The Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, done the Scissor Me gesture and everything. Just cool. That was after the match, by the way. Match 2, it was Hook versus Ari Daivari for the FTW title. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Hook went over and retained the FTW title with the Red Rum. Now, before the match, as the Trust Busters, which are Ari Daivari and Jeeves K, were out in the ring, Hook came out, and Ari Daivari got on the microphone and talked about how Hook may not like checks, but he may like cash better, and Ari Daivari offered Hook $500,000 in cash for the FTW title and gave Hook one last chance, but Hook ended up knocking the money out of Ari Daivari's hand and everything before the match started and everything. Chuck's cool. And after the match, as Jeeves K was checking on Ari Daivari, Hook executed the Red Rum on Jeeves K and choked him out and everything. Chuck's cool. And that was before the match and after the match, by the way. Match 3, it was Willow Nightingale versus Layla Gray. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Willow Nightingale went over with the Doctor Bomb. Now, after the match, Tony Schiavone interviewed Willow Nightingale, and Tony Schiavone brought up about Willow Nightingale being victorious and everything, and then Tony Schiavone announced that Willow Nightingale was officially All Elite. So Willow Nightingale hugged Tony Schiavone, and then Jade Cargill came out, and then Jade Cargill came out to the ring, and Willow Nightingale left the ring, and the baddies, which are Kiera Hogan and Layla Gray, came into the ring, and Jade Cargill got a steel chair. Well, Tony Schiavone got out of the ring, and Layla Gray had the steel chair. Not Layla Gray, excuse me. Jade Cargill had the steel chair and sat in the ring, and Jade Cargill got on the microphone and said and talked about how she is a woman of her word, and she said she was going to hijack Rampage until she gets her TBS Women's title back and everything, and then Jade Cargill called Nyla Rose out to bring back the TBS Women's title and everything, and gave her till the count of 10 to give it back, and Jade Cargill ended up doing the 10 count, but the Vicious Vixens, which are the Beasts of Burdens, which are Vicky Guerrero, Nyla Rose, and Marina Shafir, appeared on the Titantron. Well, Marina Shafir and Vicky Guerrero said, "Hey, Jade," and then Nyla Rose was singing a song called Jade by some artist I don't know, and then Nyla Rose was talking about how, asking Jade Cargill if she was looking for a TBS Women's title, and talked about how she found it lying around and everything, and then talked about how she was taking her ride and everything as well, and then Nyla Rose, Vicky Guerrero, and Marina Shafir, which are the Beasts of Burdens, left in Jade Cargill's vehicle, and the baddies, which are Kiera Hogan and Layla Gray, went backstage, and Jade Cargill was still in the ring, and then the security guards came in to try to get Jade Cargill out of the ring, but Jade Cargill attacked the security guards and beat the shit out of them, and then Jade Cargill left and went backstage and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way. And match 4, which was the main event, it was Orange Cassidy versus 10 versus Roosh in a 3-way match for the AEW All-Atlantic title. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Orange Cassidy went over and retained the AEW All-Atlantic title, cause Orange Cassidy pinned 10 with a roll-up. Now, after the match, as Orange Cassidy was in the ring celebrating his victory, 10 and Roosh were on stage staring each other down, and -1 came out to the ring to try to fight Roosh, but 10 got a hold of -1 and brought him backstage and everything, and Roosh was looking on and everything. While Roosh was looking on while Orange Cassidy was celebrating his victory and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way. And that was match 4 and the main event, by the way. Now, besides all that, Tony Schiavone interviewed Jade Cargill. Well, Tony Schiavone brought up about Nyla Rose stealing Jade Cargill's TBS Women's title and everything, and talked about how Layla Gray replaced Penelope Ford against Willow Nightingale and everything, and then Jade Cargill talked about how she handpicked Layla Gray to replace Penelope Ford to beat Willow Nightingale's ass and everything, and Jade Cargill talked about how she was a woman of her word and how she was going to hijack Rampage until Nyla Rose gives her TBS Women's title back and everything. That was cool. Alex Marvez interviewed Eddie Kingston, Ortiz, Alex Abrahantes, and the Lucha Brothers, which are Rey Fenix and Pena El Cerro Miedo. Well, Alex Marvez brought up about how Ortiz requested this time and everything, and Ortiz talked about how he did request this time, and talked about how he was worried about Eddie Kingston, and how Eddie Kingston needs to loosen up and not lose his temper, and keep his cool and everything, and then Pena El Cerro Miedo expressed his concern and talked about how Eddie Kingston was a great competitor and how he was his friend and how he needs to settle down and everything. And then Ray Phoenix pretty much said the same thing Pena El Cerro Miedo said, but Ray Phoenix also talked about how him and Eddie Kingston had the same mentor in the business of professional wrestling and everything. And then Alex Abrahantes was talking about how the Lucha Brothers, which are Ray Phoenix and Pena El Cerro Miedo, really care about Eddie Kingston and were concerned about him and everything. And then Pac came along and talked about how Eddie Kingston needs to loosen up and control his temper and everything, and talked about how Ray Phoenix and Pena El Cerro Miedo, who are the Lucha Brothers, were champions and they cared about Eddie Kingston and everything. And then Alex Abrahantes and the Death Triangle, which are Pac, Ray Phoenix, and Pena El Cerro Miedo, ended up leaving the ring. Ended up leaving. While, and Alex Abrahantes ended up leaving as well, and so did Alex Marvez. And Eddie Kingston and Ortiz were looking on, and Ortiz was talking about how he didn't ask Pac to come along or anything, and Eddie Kingston was pissed off and left, and Ortiz was looking on and everything. That was cool. Lexi Nair interviewed The Firm, which are Stokely Hathaway, Ethan Page, and Matt Hardy. Well, Lexi Nair brought up about how Ethan Page beat Isaiah Cassidy last week on AEW Rampage, and talked about how Stokely Hathaway now not only has the contract of Private Party, which are Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy, but also has the contract of Matt Hardy as well, and everything. And then Matt Hardy was like, Matt Hardy said, first of all, where's Private Party? Stokely Hathaway said, they're at the Stokely Hathaway Wrestling Academy. But don't worry about them, Matt, because I got a match for you. Matt Hardy said, tonight? Stokely Hathaway said, no, not tonight, because you don't deserve TV time like Ethan Page here does. I got you a match on AEW Dark Elevation Monday night. This coming Monday night. And Ethan Page was talking shit towards Matt Hardy, and then Matt Hardy done a rap on The Firm, which are Ethan Page and Stokely Hathaway and everything. And as Matt Hardy done the rap, Stokely Hathaway left, and then Ethan Page talked shit to Matt Hardy, and Ethan Page ended up leaving, and Matt Hardy was saying, see you Monday, guys, and everything. That was cool. Alex Marvez interviewed Tin and Roosh. Well, Alex Marvez brought up about how Tin and Roosh have been at each other's throats. Well, no, excuse me. Alex Marvez interviewed Tin, and Alex Marvez was asking Tin about his issues with Los Ingranabres, which are Roosh, Tin, which are Roosh and Jose the assistant and everything, and then before Tin could get a word in, Jose the assistant came along, and Jose the assistant offered Tin one last chance to join LFI and everything, and Tin turned down the offer from LFI and everything, and then Roosh came along and talked about how he was going to kick Tin's ass and everything, and Tin was talking shit towards Roosh back and everything, and then Orange Cassidy appeared and offered Tin and Roosh a beer, and then Orange Cassidy was talking about how he was putting his, and Orange Cassidy announced that he was putting his AEW All-Atlantic title on the line against Tin and Roosh on AEW Rampage and everything. That was cool. And Mark Henry interviewed Tin along with -1 and Roosh along with Jose the assistant. Well, Orange Cassidy came along during the interview as well, and Mark Henry brought up about Tin and Roosh. Well, Mark Henry was getting ready to bring up about Tin and Roosh being at each other's throats and everything, but since Orange Cassidy came along, Mark Henry asked Orange Cassidy, why did he get all up in Tin and Rush's business, and why did he decide to put the AEW All Atlantic title on the line? Orange Cassidy said, "I don't know, Mark. I just felt like because I felt like it." Then Tin was saying, well, "Orange Cassidy, I'm glad you feel like it, because tonight not only am I going to kick Rush's ass, but I'm also going to take the AEW All Atlantic title away from you as well." Well, Jose, the assistant, was saying, well, Rush was talking about how he was going to kick both Tin and Orange Cassidy's asses and everything, and then Jose, the assistant, was saying, "Orange Cassidy, tonight, not only is Tin going to be taken out by Rush, but Rush is going to be taking the AEW All Atlantic title away from you as well." And everything. And then Orange Cassidy was getting ready to say Mark Henry's line, but Mark Henry stopped Orange Cassidy, and then Mark Henry was saying, Mark Henry said his signature line, "Well, looks like there's been enough talk. It's time for the main event," and everything. That was cool. Now, besides all that, Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur done commentary throughout the whole show. They done awesome as usual. The referees for the event were Paul Turner, Bryce Remsburg, Stephon Smith, and Aubrey Edwards. Okay. Stephon Smith refereed the match between the Acclaimed versus the Varsity Athletes in the title versus trademark match. That was Stephon Smith, by the way. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Hook versus Ari Daivari for the FTW title. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Willow Nightingale versus Layla Gray. And Paul Turner refereed the match between Orange Cassidy versus Tin versus Rush in a three-way match for the AEW All Atlantic title. That was Paul Turner, by the way, and all the referees done awesome as usual. And the match card for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite Wednesday night, it's going to be Jon Moxley versus Penta El Cerro Miedo for the AEW title. The Jericho Appreciation Society, which are Chris Jericho and Daniel Garcia, versus the Blackpool Combat Club, which are Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. Bryan Danielson versus Sammy Guevara. FTR, which are Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, versus Swerve and Our Glory, which are Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland, in a number one contenders match to determine the number one contender for the AEW Tag Team titles. And Riho versus Jamie Hayter. So the match card for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite Wednesday night looks like it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it, and I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a while and give my review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Rampage from 2 nights ago, which was October 21st, 2022. Like I said, it was awesome from start to finish, and with that being said, my name is Austin Honecker, and I will catch your ass down the road. Peace out.